This is Lab 210B, Callister Quadrangle, how-to for Procedure B, Profile AB. So I need to do a profile. So in order to do a profile, I need to have a scrap piece of paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my map, and I need to find line AB. So line AB is up here at the top. There's A, there's B, and it crosses a whole bunch of isolines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scrap paper, and I'm going to line that up carefully with my path, and I'm going to go from point A to point B. Excuse me. So now I need to mark every isoline that crosses my path. So there's an isoline there, there. That's a blue line. That's going to be a stream. In this case, it's a stream. There's one. Now they get very crowded in here, so I want to be very accurate, very careful. And I want to, again, mark every point where an isoline crosses my path. So once I have them all marked, now what I need to do is go figure out what the values of them are. So some of these are darker index contours, meaning, or index isolines, meaning that they're labeled. These are the ones that are going to be labeled. So I want to know what this one and this one are. So this one is 300 and this one is 200. So I can easily label those 300 and 200. And if I look at the bottom of the map, the contour interval is 20 feet. So each line is worth 20 feet. So as I do this, as I go down, so in between here, these are so tight, I'm not going to bother labeling them, but I do want to recognize that this one's 200, 220, 240, 260, 280, 300. So going downhill then, this one right here would be 180. And this is the same line, so this is also going to be 180. Now, if you think about this, I'm going to go 300, 200, 180, 180 again. Then over here, this line is dark, which means that it's going to be labeled somewhere. So if I go look, I follow this through, it's labeled over here 200. So this one is 200. So now I'm going uphill. This next line would have to be going uphill 180, 200, going by 20s. So this is going to be 220. Now, I'm not going to label these. These are too tight for me to write the numbers in and keep it clean for me to be able to read. So, but I do recognize 220, 240, 260, 280, 300. These other ones, oh, I missed a line. Okay, so these other ones. So now I'm going uphill. So I'm going to go to this one here is going to be 320. And then I have 340. But then I have my next contour line is a hatcher mark. That means that this is a depression, a pit in the ground, the antlion pit. So if you remember, the first hatcher line, is going to have the same value as the last regular line going uphill. So going uphill, 300, 320, 340, definitely going uphill this way. So this next line is going to have the same value. It's going to be paired with the one next to it. So this is also going to be 340. And now I'm going downhill, so into the pit. So this next one, A, will be 320. So now I have all my points, all my lines labeled, or at least recognized, so I know what they are. So now I'm going to take my scrap paper to my graph. And I take my scrap paper and I put it at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the A, the left-hand side, on the elevator line. So I'm going to take that up to 320 here, and I will make a dot. And then 340, make a dot, another dot for the next 340, come down to 320, the 320, 300, 280, 260, 240, 220. Every time I move my paper, I'm making sure that the A is lined up on the elevator line, the left-hand line. 20 or 200. 180, 180 again. And then I'm going to go up again to 200. And then 220. And that's where my trail ends. So that's going to be point B right there. And this is going to be point A up here. All right, so the next step that I have is to connect all the diagonals. So all I got to do is kind of go through, and I can kind of curve them a little bit. Make them nice and smooth. And I don't want it to go above or below a line except exactly where the dot is. So I want to make sure that I'm going from a dot to a lot without crossing one of those lines. If I cross the line somewhere in the middle, that would be there should be a dot there, and there's not. So I've got all my diagonal slopes done. Now I got to put in my mountaintop and my valley. So going back to my map, is the idea up here is that I'm going uphill, 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 and I go a little bit above 3. We decided that this line right here was 340, so I'm going above 340, but I'm not getting to 360. So somewhere in here, that's probably 350. But then I'm going back down into the pit, so I hit 340 again. That's why this line and this line are paired up at 340 and 340. So the line in the middle of this has got to be above 340, but less than 360, our next counting number. So when I draw this on my profile, my mountain peak should show that. So I'm going to draw it up to about halfway between the two lines. Now I got to do the valley. So if I'm going downhill, that's 300 and that's 200, and then I'm going downhill to 180. I'm going below to 180, but then I come back up to 180. In between here, this has got to be below 180 because I've gone downhill, downhill. As soon as I pass that line, I'm below 180. So this value has to be between 180 and 160. So it might be 170. It might anything in between 180 and 160. And then it goes back up to 180 again. So this point right here is between the 180 and the 160 line. So I want to make sure that I show that on my profile. So my profile has got to dip below the line and then go back up again. And that's the profile for line AB.